Welcome to the Board Game Marketing Podcast. Let's cue the intro. This is the #1 podcast to learn marketing strategies for your board game. Whether you're just starting on your first game or an experienced designer, you've come to the right place. My name is Nalin, and let's talk marketing for your game. Hi everyone, welcome to the Board Game Marketing Podcast. Today we're really lucky to have Rita on the show, and I'm super excited for everything that she has to share with us. So Rita, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Amazing. Well, firstly, I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself and also about the project before we get into the details here.
Sure. So my name is Rita Orlov. I run a company called Post Curious, and I make narrative tabletop puzzle games. So sort of a combination of an escape room, board game, and interactive fiction. And I've done one Kickstarter so far, but 2 games. And the Kickstarter was for my newest game called The Emerald Flame. And that's a narrative tabletop puzzle adventure about trying to find a recipe for a legendary elixir and trying to solve a bunch of puzzles about an alchemist, and has a story that develops throughout as you solve through the puzzles in the game.
I love it. I love it. The puzzle part, the alchemy. I'd love to kind of learn more about, what kind of marketing you did to prepare for the campaign during the pre-launch stage.
Sure. So, I sort of started way before this Kickstarter, because I started doing research on Kickstarter before my first game, which I didn't end up crowdfunding. I ended up just kind of self-publishing it. But there was a lot of foundation that I tried to lay out at that point. So I started a newsletter way back then, and I tried to get more signups for it by having some free puzzles available on the website. So people could just kind of go on the website, even if they didn't want to buy the game, they could just sign up for the newsletter and play some things immediately. And I basically, I was planning on launching the campaign in April, but because of COVID, I ended up delaying it. And that brought me to making some online puzzles on a weekly basis, just to try to get people to engage and give them something fun to do while they were stuck in lockdown. So since I was delaying the Kickstarter, I figured that could be a good way to kind of have people get to know Post Curious a little bit and just try some puzzles and get them, into it and interested in the game before I launched. So I set up the pre-launch page pretty early, before I even knew exactly when I was going to launch the campaign. And pretty much whenever I posted about the game, I tried to get that link up to get more followers. And I had a plan to do weekly puzzles during the campaign already. So when COVID hit, I started doing these kind of just for fun. But I decided that maybe it would be good to have a sort of a pre-launch goal and trying to get more followers on the Kickstarter page, since then all of those people would be notified on the first day. And I know that the first couple days are really consequential in terms of how campaigns do, so I was really hoping we could get funded more quickly. So basically, I posted if we get 500 followers on the Kickstarter page, then I'll make an extra puzzle for the during the campaign. And we ended up hitting that, and then I was okay, if we hit 1,000, then I'll make another puzzle during the campaign. And we got to 1,000 basically the day before we launched. And and otherwise, just posting on social media, trying to tease out pictures of the game, especially the artwork in the game, I think is a big draw for a lot of people. So I tried to not just post pictures of the game, but also kind of process photos of working on different puzzles and parts of the prototype, and even pictures of like work in progress, kind of like in the middle of me drawing some of the artwork for the game, and trying to like establish a connection with me also, like as the designer and as the artist, and being kind of like, here, this is who I am doing these illustrations. Here's my process, and kind of try to like establish a personal connection with people. And otherwise, like just engaging with people in Facebook groups. And I also post a lot about like other games that I play and try to support other designers and create like sort of a goodwill in that way, hoping, to have other people kind of supporting my work as well. So I think there's some cross promotion opportunities in that way as well.
Wow, yeah, that's a whole lot of things that you did during the pre-launch here. I wanted to kind of dig into some of the things that you said here. When you said you kind of teased out things on social media, can you kind of walk us through how you chose what to use to tease things out, and also how you kind of figured, hey, when should I post, and kind of what platform to post on? Because a lot of people coming into this who are newbies just really aren't sure kind of where to get started.
I mean, I'm definitely not a social media expert, so I kind of tried to just like do my best with what I had. A lot of the, obviously I spent a lot of time preparing for it as well. So I read like a ton of blogs, I listened to other podcasts, and like, what do people do when they're going to launch? And everybody was like, you should post something every day, coming up to the launch. And so I tried to like prepare, I guess, kind of like schedule a calendar of things to be posting before the campaign and during the campaign. And I mostly did like, well, I basically cross post, which is maybe not like the most effective strategy, but like I would post every day on Instagram and Facebook, and then some of the things I would post on there, I'd post on Twitter. And like with Twitter, there's a lot of like other game designers on there, so sometimes I would post different things on Twitter. But with Instagram, I did a mix of like other games that I'm playing, artwork from the game, kind of work in progress, and then like component shots and kind of pieces of the game sort of laid out, or also like pictures of people playtesting the game and things like that. Just kind of, basically just anything that is aesthetically pleasing and gets people kind of drawn to it and, want to see more about what it is.
Yeah, got it. And it seems like the weekly puzzles or like the online puzzles that you were posting really drew engagement to the game, and also you as a creator for this, these games too. I was wondering, like, how did you end up figuring out who this audience was that would respond well to this game, and also kind of where they were?
Where they what?
Where they are
Where they are. Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest audience is really on Facebook, and it's actually kind of weird. I'm trying to like bridge the gap between a few different genres of like escape rooms and board games and like these kind of mystery subscription boxes. And my game is somewhere like kind of in the intersection of all these things. So it's actually like a few different audiences, and figuring out how to engage with those different audiences. But the people who are most interested in it are like tabletop kind of mystery game enthusiasts. And we have a like nice community on Facebook of people who are interested in that. And so I definitely spent a lot of time in that group, talking to people about other games, commenting on stuff, posting things. And so I did post in some board game groups about the game when the Kickstarter launched, but I actually didn't need to even post in that group because there were people there who like posted it for me because they already knew about it and they were excited about it. So I guess having, creating some sort of visibility within the community that is going to have like the most passionate people about the game that you're making.
Got it. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. These people who were just came in and as advocates for your game when you launched, and they were just posting, and you didn't even have to do marketing because a lot of people were just marketing for you because you built up that goodwill and you kind of built up that connection in the pre-launch phase.
Yeah, and part of that was also because I did have a game out before, so there was not that many, but there was, a certain number of people who had either played that game or at least knew about that game. So they had, maybe some idea of who I was and what this game was going to be.
Got it. And when you're doing all these kind of posting on social, during this pre-launch and kind of getting people hyped up and engaged, how long would you say that you spend, maybe each day or each week focusing on nurturing that community and building that community?
That's that's so hard to quantify. I don't know. I mean, I think that's the kind of thing that sort of you do kind of just in between tasks, like, oh, you hop on Facebook for like 10 minutes and see what people posted and like, or post something yourself. It's not even like being in that group was really pretty organic for me because I'm also an enthusiast. So I wasn't even really thinking of it as like a way to promote myself or anything. It was just me kind of more naturally engaging. But as far as like posting, I mean, I don't know, I spent like a few hours just trying to like plan out some posts for the next 2 weeks. But making the puzzles took some time, so maybe a couple of hours for each of those puzzles, plus like having a few people testing them out to make sure that they were going to be solvable. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it added up over time, but it's really hard to know in retrospect how long it all took.
Got it. Yeah, a lot of people who come into this whole marketing thing for their game, they just kind of expect, hey, if I just spend money on ads, I'll just get a community and then I'll launch and I'll be totally okay. And I'm like, well, there's a lot that goes into it. All this time that you're spending in creating these puzzles, also engaging, interacting, making sure that people's questions are answered. So I appreciate you talking about how you just try to find time wherever you can to really just put yourself out there and just really engage. So for the next thing I wanted to really ask you too was, what was launch day like for you for your game?
Well, I guess it was pretty crazy as it is for everyone. I didn't really know what to expect, so I was super nervous, and I was like, well, if we launched in the first day, that would be amazing. And then we ended up, if we funded the first day, not if we launched. And then we ended up funding in like 4 hours. And I think a huge part of that was the number of followers that we got on the pre-launch page, because all those people were notified the moment that we launched. And I also sent out an e-blast to my newsletter subscribers that morning, and I think a ton of the first day backers came from there. And there was also a few reviews that dropped that same day. So I think that helped drive a little bit of traffic as well.
Got it. Do you remember what you did during launch day to kind of get the word out for the game?
I mean, I posted on some groups, and like I said, I sent out the newsletter. A lot of it was really from the newsletter and like followers that we already had. So I don't know if I had to do as much like posting on the first day as it was just answering people and trying to just stay on top of whatever was happening on Kickstarter and like making sure every comment was responded to. And we also messaged a lot of the backers that backed on the first day just to like say thank you for for being a first day backer, and like thank you for all your support. And I think a lot of people appreciated that, just kind of having the personal touch of somebody actually, taking the time to say something to them personally.
Yeah, I really love that personal message to thank them for being a first day backer. Was this something that you prepared beforehand, or did you try to kind of just pick it up right when it happened on launch day and just decided to go messaging everyone?
That was a bit of Jamie Stegmaier advice that I read at some point on his blog, and I was like, yeah, that seems like a good idea. So we pretty much just like went we went on a big messaging rampage the first day, and pretty much, yeah, like everyone who backed the game, we sent a message to.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And throughout the rest of the campaign, did you continue messaging everyone with like this similar message, or was there a different call to actions, or were there anything that changed throughout the campaign?
We kept messaging people who then pledged over a certain amount. We did end up continuing to do it for everyone because it did end up being kind of like an enormous task. We did also have a collector's edition available, which went pretty quickly, but that also helped us fund on the first day because it was just significantly more than the base game, and so people who were really excited about it and wanted to have like keepsakes would back on the first day. But otherwise, I mean, the campaign definitely kind of fluctuated throughout, as they do. There's always kind of that mid slump. And we had a lot of momentum in the first week, and then, things sort of flattened out, and we wanted to try and figure out what we can do to kind of get things to pick up again. And it seemed like people were really into the game, but it was kind of a matter of just getting more eyes on it. So at that point, we decided to launch some Facebook ads, which I wasn't sure if I was going to do at first, but it seemed like the best way to kind of just be able to, get more people to even know about it, because there's, a huge audience out there that, might just not be possible to reach directly. And I think it also, sometimes seeing them, if somebody might have seen the game somewhere else before and then they see an ad for it and they remember that they saw it somewhere before, and kind of have their interest reignited that way.
Got it. All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to kind of drive that traffic to the game page itself and just kind of recoup some of the people who have seen it, but then, have it in their mind, but need some more time to consider or reconsider the game again. When you went about doing this, did you start doing ads yourself first? Did you go work with an agency? How did you kind of approach this ad concept? Because I know a lot of new creators, they just really don't know how to get started even.
Yeah, I mean, I find the whole interface extremely not user-friendly, so we did end up hiring an agency to do it, because I figured if it was something that we were going to spend money on, then we would want to make them the most effective that they could possibly be. And I didn't really think that I had like the marketing knowledge to be able to target properly and make sure that the algorithms were doing the best job that they could in getting it in front of the right people. So that turned out to be a lot more effective than I think it would have been if I had done it myself. But I think it was also much more effective because we already were funded, and people just like to hop on to successful campaigns. So if it hadn't been funded, I don't know that the ads would have necessarily done as well.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, because a lot of people I talk to think that advertising or throwing money at different promotions are going to just kind of be the band-aid or like the end-all be-all for getting a campaign funded. But I totally agree what you're saying, how the getting funded is that important part with your own audience pretty much, and then having an ad team come in really kind of multiplies the success from there. So I really like that you brought that up. So in the middle of the campaign here, you talked about kind of things somewhat slowed down too. What other kind of marketing methods did you use during the middle of the campaign?
So the other thing that we did, like I mentioned, I was doing the weekly puzzles before the campaign, so I had this whole kind of mini ARG planned out um, to have another puzzle released every week throughout the campaign. And the page itself also had a couple hidden things in it. It had a link and a password into a forum that was meant to be running by this historical society that was commissioning you in the game itself. So the puzzles throughout the campaign were built to be kind of like a prequel, where you're helping them find the items that this alchemist left behind, whereas the game itself starts when they actually find those items. So this allowed me to build a series of clues that would lead into one another. And in the forum, I wanted to encourage people to work together to solve them. And I read this essay a while back, kind of about about ARGs and like different ways that people engage with content of this type, and it was talking about dippers, swimmers, and divers. And so, dippers are kind of the people who maybe just want to get the game and like follow along with the updates. And like swimmers might want to solve the puzzles, which I also posted on social media, but they were posted on the forum the night before. So people who really wanted to dive into it could go into the forum, they could see the puzzles early, they could talk to other people about it, they could read more about the story and like the mythology behind the game, talk to people about like their theories and work together to solve the puzzles. And there were a few people even like just hanging around the forum to kind of help other people solve them. And nobody spoiled anything, but like they wanted everyone else to get it. So that was nice to kind of see, it wasn't that many people that were on there, but it was still kind of like a nice little community that formed.
Yeah, I really like that idea. And also when you mentioned about, dippers, swimmers, and divers too, that's totally what a lot of people see with their campaigns too. There's those people who just want to get it, like you said, get it and kind of move along and just kind of keep abreast of what's going on. And then there's those divers who really want to get into the behind the scenes or like what's happening, really get involved in the world. Can you talk us through about how you kind of conceptualize this forum and all these puzzles, and how you ended up putting everything together? Because it seems like a really honestly like, big thing.
Yeah, well, a lot of them kind of stemmed from things that I was thinking about while I was designing the game, and they maybe didn't end up making it into the game. So they were still like related in theme and story, and I was thinking, how can I construct something that's going to be engaging for people throughout the campaign, whether they just want to join in and play these puzzles. So, well, I don't really know how to answer that question, but it was constructed and kind of thought through over a long period of time, and I was trying to make it something that was kind of in world. And the game doesn't use online elements, but it does kind of blur the line between like the fantasy story in it and the real world. And so the puzzles in the forum were meant to kind of be happening in the real world as if they were looking for these things that then ended up being the game itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, wow, I really like that. And how did you kind of conceptualize the forum? Did you want it to continue after the campaign ended too, for people to continue talking about the game, talking about the publishing company, or was it just like hey, we'll have this for the Kickstarter campaign and kind of shut it down at the end?
I was kind of undecided about that. I mean, the forum was meant to be sort of in world, so it wasn't really talking about the game, but rather like things that were kind of happening in the world of the game, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't be like directly referencing the Kickstarter, but rather like we found this artifact and we need to find out what it means. And I guess because it also has kind of a little bit of world building and story bits in it, I was thinking I might keep it up for people later just in case they wanted to engage more with that world while they were playing the game. So it's not really necessarily meant to continue being active, but it is there for people to kind of come back to and check it out if they wanna read more about it and kind of dive deeper into the world. But after the campaign, I also ended up taking all the puzzles that were posted throughout, and I made pages, a page with hints for those for anybody who didn't get to solve it during the campaign, so they could always come back to it and like play them later on. And that kind of cycles back into my newsletter thing because I have, basically I just made a free puzzle archive. So anything that I ended up posting online, I ended up later on putting into this archive and adding hints into it. So if people missed it, they could always come to that archive and just play some puzzles. So somebody who's never heard of the company before will just go to the website and see like, oh, free puzzles, what's this? And then they sign up for the newsletter, and then they have access to this page that has a bunch of content that they can just get for free. And that way they can kind of get a taste of what the game's like and, gauge their interest that way.
Wow, yeah, I really like that because you pretty much created like a lead magnet and a lead generation tool, all with all the content that you already have, and just kind of repurposing it for the game now that it's come off of Kickstarter, and then you're just creating a new kind of crowd of people who'll start being excited, subscribing to the newsletter, and just learn more about the game even post Kickstarter too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. And so when we're talking about during the Kickstarter campaign and all these things that you were doing, the newsletter, all these puzzles, kind of the forums to get people really deeper into the world, these ads, can you talk to us about what you think was the most effective marketing method for your campaign?
Oh, sorry if you heard that in the background. You might have to cut it out. Sorry, what did I think was the most effective thing I did during the campaign?
Marketing method for the campaign.
Mm-hmm. I think it's hard to gauge really what was the most effective thing because I think it was a combination of all of these things. But what I think may have helped more than I expected was to kind of, show who the creator is and create like a more personal connection with people. So I had the trailer video for the game up on the top of the Kickstarter page, but at the bottom I also had a video of just me talking about it and kind of like a time lapse of me drawing some of the artwork and things like that. And it included the like secret link that they had to get to the forum was actually found in that video. So a lot of people ended up watching that video, and I think putting a face to it helped like create a stronger trust, and I didn't realize like what sort of effect it would have, but when I was backing a couple campaigns later myself and I wasn't really sure how much I wanted to back them, and then I saw a video of the creator talking about it, and that somehow ended up giving me a lot more confidence in it. So in retrospect, I wonder if maybe that had a bigger effect than I thought it would, because then, creating that connection makes people not just excited about the product itself, but they also actually want to help you and help it succeed.
Yeah, I really like that fact that you were talking about there, how that relationship and that connection really built up the credibility and also that trust factor too. A lot of first-time creators, again, are scared to kind of put themselves out there or show that, hey, this is me, the person behind the game. So I really love that kind of tip that you dropped there for your own game. And I find that myself too, where if I know the creator, I'm like, hey, I really like this person. They've really given back to the community. They're adding so much value. Like, let's, why not support them? So
yeah, and I think it's also with like, answering any messages or any comments, like trying to answer pretty quickly, being like as helpful as you can to people and, make them feel good about backing your project.
Got it. Yeah, so now at the end here, like if people want to learn more about Emerald Flame or follow Post Curious, where should they go to? Where can they find you online?
They can go to getpostcurious.com, and you can find me on Twitter at getpostcurious and on Instagram and Facebook just at postcurious. And the game is currently available for pre-order on gamefound.com, so you can find it there, or you can just go to the website and, there's links everywhere. So go to one of those places and you'll find everything.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and just sharing all these insights about the campaign, about marketing with us, Rita.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let me stop. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Board Game Marketing Podcast. For daily tips and advice, find us in the Board Game Marketing group on Facebook. See you next week.